Welcome back, everyone. I think we're live online again, so we'll get session 3 underway this afternoon. Welcome back, everyone here in Perth, and a very warm welcome back to everyone over in the Gold Coast. We've got a diverse and interesting group of companies this afternoon, and it's my pleasure to steer you through the first of the afternoon sessions. Our first presenter is Kairos Minerals. Terry Topping's here, the Executive Chairman. Now, at this time of the year, the Pilbara is already red hot, but when it comes to gold exploration, it's clearly white hot. Kairos's Pilbara Gold Project has many geological similarities to the nearby monster discovery of De Grey mining and already boasts a resource of 873,000 ounces. To tell us about the company's expansive exploration program and where it's going over the next 12 months, could I please ask you to welcome Terry Topping?
Thank you, Nicholas, and it's great to be here in Perth, and unfortunately not on the Gold Coast, but I hope everybody's enjoying themselves over there. Thanks to the guys for getting Resource Rising SARS up and going this year, so it's been great work by the team. Really pleased to be able to go through the Kairos story again today. There we go. Recently we've, if you look at the metrics there, we've increased our shares on issue through a $9 million capital raising, which has really set the company up through this year and all through next year for a much more aggressive drilling campaign. I think it's been fair over the last few years that we've focused a lot on a lot of regional work, soil sampling, target generation, those sorts of things. But when it comes down to it, what you need to be doing is drilling. And this sort of capital raise really underpins the ability to go out and book rigs. And so a lot of our work for the latter part of this year is this sort of preparation for next year and really getting stuck in. Share price took a bit of a hit recently through some announcements of our first 8 holes that we drilled on one of the prospects. I'll go through that and sort of what that means. We've had it sort of bounce back a bit over the last sort of week. Still gives us a good market cap of 75 million, and I think a lot of that's underpinned by the ounces that we've also got up in the Pilbara. I got myself on the board, Bruno Sinek as CFO, and Neil Hutchison as well on the board, who's was involved in the Jubilee nickel discovery. So we've got 2 technical guys on the board there. As Nicholas said, we've been in the Pilbara for a while now. We've got a really strategic ground position. We've done a lot of work up there, a lot of grassroots exploration, really got to know what's going on. I've got a sort of background in the Pilbara over 25 years, and 2 of the other guys on our team were involved also with the Paulson's discovery. So we've been involved in delineating. I think, somebody put a slide up, there's about 8 million ounces in the Pilbara. Well, that's about 1.6 million of that our team's been involved in, which is quite a lot. So we've got a really good experience base in the area. We just finished 5,500 metres of drilling. We'll commence again in the next few weeks at Mount York, and that's the area where we've got the ounces. And the focus now is infill drilling and extensional drilling. And the reason for the infill and extensional is we're going to really look to push hard now on mining studies. I know Dave's sitting in the front here. He'll be on a bit later, and he'll explain to you all the hard work that's involved. So we're keen on doing the exploration phase, and we absolutely know what's involved in the next step, so I'll let him go through that. Then, as Nicholas said in the intro, the big thing this year has been the Hemi discovery by De Grey. And that really is a world-class major discovery and will be a significant resource when they get it out next year. And it's an intrusive style of gold mineralisation, which in the Pilbara, although there's been sort of areas with these sorts of signatures, it really wasn't until Hemi was found that the significance of the size and scale of it and the implications for exploration in the Pilbara became really clear. So what we did is we had to step back a little bit like what De Grey did in mid last year and look at all our portfolio and go, have we got this style as well? Gold exploration a lot is following where the gold is and where it takes you. And what we found was when we started to look at our targets that, yep, we've got the same sorts of things, but we didn't have the right data sets to do that sort of exploration. We didn't have detailed magnetics, radiometrics. So we've flown all that. It's all about acquiring this information and then using it to go out and do targeted exploration. And that's what we've done at Kangan and Skywell. The US gold price was that yesterday, but it's not quite that today. But on the back of good news, let's all put it that way. And like I said earlier, our market cap's still a pretty healthy 75 million. Mount York, where we've got the ounces, has already been in production in the past. That's fantastic for us because it gives us a really good data set for mining studies. We put out a 873,000 ounce resource update in March this year. It's an amazing place to do exploration, the Pilbara, just because of the infrastructure. And like I mentioned earlier, we'll start drilling there again. And one of the great things about Mount York is we've got the Pilbara Minerals Camp, like literally within 5 k's. So the ability for us to set up, and the Pilbara is getting pretty warm now, so you want to be in these areas where people are looked after effectively and they've got somewhere to stay at night. And that allows us to work quite late in the year at Mount York, but also, more importantly, start earlier in the year, next year. From a regional exploration point of view, we've got 1,500 square k's. We've got the 2 main prospects that we worked on through last year and this year at Fuego and Tierra. We announced 8 of the first 29 holes, which didn't really have a lot in them, and people sort of thought that was the end of the world, and I just thought it's exploration. So we're sort of disagreeing a little bit that what I think and what the market thinks. And I'll go through that. But what we've also done is a lot of targeted regional soil exploration. And the second part of the talk will be going through the targets that we've got now that we're really setting up for a big drill program next year. That's sort of a distribution of where we are. You can see there's a good distribution of tenements throughout the Pilbara in a belt sort of in that 100 kilometres south of Port Hedland, which has got main road access from the North-South Highway going all the way down through our Kangan project, Wodgina project, and only about 20 k's from that into Mount York. So you can see Mount York's, from an ounces point of view, there's a total of 873, but there's the Mount York deposit there's the main one with nearly 700. And that's only about 60 k's from Hemi, which is pretty important. You've got Fuego, Tierra and Aqua, the 3 areas that we've been working on. But the more recent exploration where we're developing new target areas are in Kangan and Skywell. The JORC mineral resource, as I said, has already been mined, so it's got mining pit studies, it's got a bankable feasibility on it for the 125,000 ounces that was produced in the late 90s. I think the gold price was only about $500 or $600 back then, so it's quite different. But it sort of left us with a small resource that we had 2 years ago of just over 100, and I think we're about 128 was the first resource that Kairos put out. So we've been able to build that in 2 years up to 873, which is pretty good considering we really haven't done a lot of drilling. You know, we're not sitting back doing 50,000 metres and these sorts of things. It's quite a consistent ore body. You can see it down the bottom there. It's a banded iron formation, which is a very typical 20 to 30 metre wide. It goes for about 3 k's. It goes to the bottom of the drilling where we've got, effectively we constrain the resource about open pit depths to about 190 metres. So there's nothing outside of that would be underground, and a really easy ore body to define. We need to do some more infill drilling here to bring that sort of inferreds up to indicateds and get some measured resources. And we'll do some diamond drilling for geotech studies and all that, but it's really sort of confirming what we already know there, which is great. You know, there's already been MET done, there's already studies on pit walls. You know, we can go out there and actually see if the pit walls stayed up. You know, it's one thing doing a bankable feasibility and hoping your pit walls stay up at that angle. It's nice to look back on a study that's actually got it done. The walls are there, and the Pilbara has pretty much cyclonic conditions over summer, and to see that they're still there is quite nice. So this will be a real focus for us later this year and early next year. Look at Fuego, we've got a really large regional soil anomaly. We drilled about 20 holes into it, but the ground's quite hard, so we're not doing air core drilling. We did regional reconnaissance, 200 metre lines, so quite broad spacing, 80 metres apart with the holes. Now the first holes hit sulphides in the sedimentary units of the Hardy Formation. It hit conglomerates where we got about 12 metres, 0.1, 0.2 grams. So it gives us an indication of where the gold is, but there's really nothing in that drilling that explains the soil anomaly and or the stream sediments where we got a lot of visible gold. So it's still early days for us. We've got another 12 holes to come, but we haven't given up here at all. It's just something where you get your first initial drilling. It doesn't come back with what you want. It sort of tells you you're not in the right spot, and you move on. And that's what we'll do. So we still like it as a prospect. We're still very keen to keep working out there. So for the Hemi-style stuff, you can look at these really large intrusions of what's called the Sisters Supersuite. And you can see Hemi sits on the edge of it as an intermediate intrusion, and the whole thing's mineralised. That's what gives it scale. But regionally, it's still a very small area. We are still looking for quite small ore bodies within a big area. So you've got to do that level of detail, and it takes time. So what we've done is fly all the tenement area we've got in blue with detailed mag, and that gives us a really good ground framework to target soils. And we've been using the CSIRO's ultrafine soils technique. That's something that De Grey was utilising as well. So we've run with that. We're only just getting our first data through this year, but we've submitted thousands and thousands of samples over the last 6 months. So I'll go through a little bit of what we've got with that. But you can see from that image there how a lot of our tenure sits around the edge of these Sisters Supersuites. So you're in the right spot. You're in either Malina Formation or Hardy Formation sediments that have got these intrusions. And it's about doing the work. The one that I keep talking about is Skywell. I think I'm on the record for earlier this year. You've got that, the sort of southeast tenement at Skywell. It's got a folded area of mafic intrusion, which I'll show you some photos of. And if you look at Hemi, it sits in a similar sort of within a broad regional fold, and then there's an intrusion. I said that area there looks perfect, and I'll show you the results we got from that. This is one we had last year, that when we were able to reinterpret, it really did stand out. Tierra's in an area where we've really only just been able to get access again to over the last month or so. We had to travel through an Aboriginal community, and they're still closed. So you can't go through the Aboriginal communities. So we had to develop a completely different access to these sort of areas. So as much as the rest of Australia's open, these communities are still off limits for us to go through. So that just gives us a few logistical problems to work through. We are able to go and drill 8 holes here, but that big anomaly sits over a Sisters Supersuite intrusion. Now, unfortunately, when we did the heritage surveys there, we didn't cover that. We didn't know about this. We're starting a heritage survey next week to get over that. But in the meantime, because we got access, we drilled some holes. Now, we only did 9 holes. We had to utilise what effectively were access tracks just to get some lines across to see what's going on. Do we expect to hit a gold ore body with these 9 holes? Probably not. That's not what they were designed for. They're designed to tell us what's going on. We're able, with the first 4 holes in the middle there, to get areas where there's gold anomalism. But the main part, we'll get heritage surveys starting next week, and then we'll get in and drill those as soon as we can, probably early in the new year. So this one, once again, depending on the results, it doesn't mean it's all over if you drill 9 holes. It's just the start. These things are big targets. That soil anomaly is 1K by about 400 metres. We've already got copper mineralisation in some of the drilling, and we're getting a lot of sulphite. So it's very encouraging at the moment. And then we've got Kangan, which is only 20 k's from Hemi. And very much, if you see the western sort of portion of that tenure, you've got a large intrusion there, Sisters Supersuite, very similar sort of location to Hemi. And with the first regional soil sampling, and look, our gold deposits are sort of between, Hemi's there, you've got Kangan in the middle, Wodgina, and then the Pilbara 873,000 ounces. So this is the sort of, I was going to put a slide up of what we had before this, and it was so rubbish you couldn't see any detail in the regional mag. There was nothing. Now we can see like regional structures that have got magnetic features in them. We can start to differentiate the intrusions, and we were able to, in those circled areas, get interesting soil anomalies. Now, they're not high tenor, but once again, there's a lot of soil cover, a lot of sand. You're not going to get high stuff, and we know with the ultrafine that high-level anomalies are not necessarily what you're going to chase. But this is air core drilling. This is going to be a lot easier for us, and this is where we'll throw thousands of metres at. So once again, we're very much lined up here to get heritage surveys and get stuck in. So this is an easy one to work on early next year as well. But we've been going through doing this soil sampling work and generating these targets. So we've got Tierra, we've got 3 or 4 targets here at Kangan, and that sets us up next year to really have a crack. So I really viewed this year as us looking at what Hemi was, going back through what we've got, setting the groundwork and generating targets for next year. And that's sort of how exploration works. It's not something where, I mean, I think a lot of times the results come out and you don't see the work that's got there. And you've got to do this work to get there. You've got to generate these targets. And Skywell's an interesting one for me. That area where we got those rock chips at the start of our season, you can see the big mafic intrusions in the top right. There's an area in there where that's quite a magnetic rock. It just stands out, and there's a really big demagnetised zone in that sort of western, southwestern area. And a lot of times you lose magnetite, which is the main magnetic mineral, through alteration. And large ore bodies have large alteration systems. So you look for these sort of telltale signs where you've got, you know the rock's there, but it's not magnetic when it should be. And if you look down in that area, we've got great rock chips in a quartz vein. Now they're small, but they are indicators that there's mineralisation going on in the area. So the first soil sampling we did gave us that. That's that tenement there on the southwest. That's a 6 kilometre long, up to 100 ppb, which is some of the highest numbers we've got in this ultrafine soil sampling. But it's exactly where you'd want it to be. And that's what's important. We're in Malina formation. We've got Sisters Super Sweet, age, mafic intrusions. They're demagnetised. So now what we're looking for is more of the Hemi-style intermediate intrusions, but they're undercover. So you have to come in and air core this. So once again, these things in our first part, and we've still got the rest of the tenure to work through. So we're already generating significant targets for next year for that style of mineralisation. And that's pretty exciting. So look, we're well funded. I mean, it's one thing finding soil sampling gold targets. It's another thing being able to drill them. And unless you can aggressively drill them and take the knocks, you're not going to find it. Because in 6 months, if I sit here with a discovery, nobody will care about the holes that didn't find anything. It's just about the ones that do. So we've got that money to aggressively get out and have a crack at these things. We've done 5,500 metres, which is not a lot of regional exploration as far as drilling's concerned. We will now focus on Mount York. We will bring those inferred resources up to indicated. We will look for extensions. We've grown that resource from about 128 to 870 in just over 2 years. And the aim is to continue to do that. It's now in a fantastic part of the world. People view the Pilbara differently because of Hemi, and they should. That's, you know, very exciting for us, not just for the ounces that we've got, but also looking at how you can find something similar. Because the knock on the Pilbara was there's no world-class ore bodies. You know, there's only sort of smaller ore bodies. Well, that's been proven wrong. And that's what happens in our industry and happens in exploration. We're pretty much keen on proving people wrong. Kangan and Skywell, with our first pass exploration, has absolutely turned up intrusive style targets. Absolutely. And we haven't really started that work. Those sort of targets are so big, we're finding them on very, very broad soil sampling, 400 metre spaced lines. We will infill that so we can generate more detailed targeting. We've got the detailed aeromagnetics, radiometrics. We've done a lot of SAM surveys to give us detailed work on the ground. We've done all that. And look, the gold price is still a fantastic price. I think the gold price took a hit, but it's still a fantastic gold price. You can just see that from the producers and their margins. They're absolutely making money. And at 75 mil market cap, it's been a great story for the company to lift ourselves up off the deck in March when I think we got down to about 5, where everybody took a big hit. And that's what happens. And I think, you know, we got up to about 140, 150 at one stage, which is an amazing run for a year. So, If you asked me if I was going to be 75 million at the end of the year, I would have taken it. So look, thanks again for everybody to put this event on. It's brilliant to be talking to you on the Gold Coast. I'm not sure if I'm used to television, Nicholas, but we'll see how we go. Thanks a lot.
Just before you go, Terry, we'll just a couple of quick questions that came in on the text line.
Right.
Firstly, with 12 million in the bank, what's your exploration budget for next year?
Look, we're so busy finishing off what we're doing in the field that what we like to do is collect everybody in and realistically work on budgets at the end of the year. You sort of collate everything you've got and then you figure out what you're going to do next year. So we sort of work on that over the next few months. But you'd like to be spending 4, 5, 6 million at least. I think, shareholders give you money to spend it, and we're not going to sit on it.
And the second one, do you expect to update the Mount York resource after the current round of drilling?
No, because we'll do a short program this year and then a bigger program to start next year. So I would have been thinking more like mid-year. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Please thank Terry Topping.